Oh, hey! Welcome back to the Doll Fairy channel. Now, I know what this looks like, but I promise I haven't been slacking off on doll making to play the new Kingdom Hearts game, or Pokémon Let's Go Eevee on my Switch. Actually, I've barely had time to play because I've been so busy working on new projects to share with you. In fact, I've been collaborating with a bunch of my friends. Since most of the custom dolls I make are usually from video games, especially Pokémon, I wanted to do something just slightly different. Instead of creating a doll inspired by a Pokémon, I decided to make dolls of two human characters from Pokémon Sun and Moon that I find rather intriguing, Lillie and Gladion. For Lillie, I decided to use an apple white doll for her very fair skin, and for Gladion, I bought a Jackson Jekyll doll. I usually prefer Ever After High male bodies, but Jackson has a more slender build, and that seemed to be more appropriate for Gladion. After removing their factory faces with acetone, I spray each head with 3 coats of Mr. Super Clear sealant, and once that's all done, I get started on the face-ups. I'm working on both dolls simultaneously to make sure that the two match up perfectly in terms of the colors I use in their eyes and such. I start by creating an outline for their features using light brown watercolor pencil. I make Lillie's features, such as her eyes, very rounded and cute looking with large irises. I totally shipped Silver with the female player character. I start filling in the whites of the eyes and then add some more details like eyelashes. I really like doing simple anime style face-ups like this. Then I start giving some color to the irises. As you guys know well, I like to create a gradient in the irises. I use a combination of light greens, darker greens, and some yellows as well to give the eyes some depth and interest. For Lillie, I can use more pink to give her a more flushed and cute appearance. I spray sealant again, and then it's a matter of using darker colors and more layers of color in order to make what I have already done much more vivid. I use some darker brown as well as black to build up the lash line and outline of the eyes, which are really important to the anime look. It also looks amazing when you let a hint of the lighter brown shades peek through underneath the black, like around the edges. The green in the eyes looks so much more vivid and bright with the addition of the yellow. After lots of careful attention to building up these lines and darkening the eyes, I do some more pastel work, and then I spray again. I add more of a yellow glow to those irises, adding more depth of color. Finally, I'm satisfied and I can add the highlights in the eyes with some white acrylic paint. I also add a bit of the paint to brighten up the whites of the eyes. And then last but not least, I give Lillie's lips some Sculpey gloss. For Lillie, she has a dress that puffs out below the hips, so I can't simply draw on the dress onto the tape. It will end up being skin tight that way. Lillie's dress is made up of panels, so I make the pattern for a couple of the panels and shape them so that they will create the bell shape in the skirt. Then later I can duplicate these pieces. Once I've cut the pieces off the doll and traced them onto paper to get a nice pattern, I can trace the pieces onto the fabric and cut them out. I also create a pattern for the sheer layer underneath the white skirt. I'll be using this shiny sheer bluish fabric, which is actually from an Elsa doll's cape, for the underskirt as well as her collar and the details on her socks. For Lillie's dress panels, each one has a dainty little pattern at the bottom. I create a little template on paper and then trace the pattern onto the fabric with a chalk pencil. Then I take my embroidery thread and embroider the little details on each panel. Once that's done, I can start sewing the dress panels together. Something I messed up here was that I forgot to add extra space for Velcro, so I ended up having to sew the dress onto the doll and making it non-removable. I hemmed the bottom of the dress, careful to preserve the flower shape. Then I sewed the dress together, and it looks really cute. I then sew the underskirt onto the doll's body. I put the dress on the doll as well and attach the collar piece the way I want it, and then sew it on. Then I also sew the dress itself closed onto the body. I had major issues with the socks because of the little blue part on the tops. I think I tried and failed at making the socks at least 3 times before it finally worked out. I ended up having to sew the sock itself and then stitch the blue part onto it while it was on the doll's leg. I don't think I even ended up filming that, I was so frustrated. Now on to shoes. You guys may have noticed by now that I don't often make shoes, and I usually find a way to make the actual plastic shoes from the dolls work for me. This time was no exception. These Hasbro Rapunzel shoes actually fit Ever After high feet perfectly. I decided to remove the Corona sun accents with my X-Acto knife, and I painted the shoes to match the ones that Lillie wears, including the little dainty pattern she has on her dress as well. While the shoes are drying, I make Lillie's duffel bag with some gray fabric. It turned out a little sloppier than I intended, but I make it work. I put a rolled up piece of index card inside the bag to keep its shape before I glued together the opening with some black ribbon. The final touch on the bag is an extra piece of ribbon to create the shoulder grip, or whatever you call that. Okay. Boy, it's a lot of work doing 2 dolls at once. So, it's time for hair. I knew that with their hairstyles, especially Gladion's, yarn would be a much better bet than rerouting. I used this pale yellow yarn and once again followed Mozakito's flawless weft and yarn wig tutorials. I combed out the yarn, which took so long. Then I straightened it and I glued it into wefts. Then I reattached the dolls' heads to their bodies and got to work gluing the yarn onto their heads with some careful consideration to how I want to style it. For Lillie, I follow Mozakito's basic fringe wig tutorial, cutting her bangs as I go along. This was nerve-wracking, but it really did work. Next, Lillie needs her hat. I saved this for now because I decided to make the top of her hat the way you would make a wig cap. I covered her with plastic wrap and I put some white material on top of her head with an elastic to hold it in place. I brushed layers of Mod Podge onto the cap. Then once dry, I removed it and cut off the excess, and this will work as the base of her hat. For the brim, I simply use some white craft foam and glue the pieces together. I glue some light blue ribbon and a bow onto the hat, and voila! One more thing before we're done. You see, I got this little white puppy from Hobby Lobby, and I thought maybe I could make it into an Alolan Vulpix for Lillie. The first thing I did was to create the tail. I roughly sketched out what shape it should be, and then made the shape out of some fleece and stitched the layers together. I stuffed the shape with some fluff to make like a little pillow. Then I sewed along the length of the tail a couple of times to create rows. After that, I stitch it so that the tail folds down a bit at the top and looks more like an Alolan Vulpix tail. I stitch the bottom of the tail together and I sew it onto the back of the little dog. Then I stitched the puppy's ears in such a way that they looked like the little puff on top of Alolan Vulpix's head. Then I made little ears for her out of some fleece fabric and some glue. I then stitched on the ears as well. And she's looking so cute! I then took a blue fabric marker to add a bit of color to her tail, head, and feet. And it really looks like Alolan Vulpix! I really didn't think I would be able to make this work, but I did, and it only took me a couple of hours. I might have to get into plush making next, guys, because this was fun. Let's reveal the dolls at last. There you are, Lillie. Nebby was looking for you. Nebby? You look so different. Huh? Nebby? You're both Nebby? I don't know exactly what possessed me to make 2 dolls for this collab, but once I got the idea to do both, it was like I was infected with it and I had to do it. I've always liked their designs, so it was really cool to bring them to life as dolls. It was a ton of work making both dolls at once, but I enjoyed sewing their clothes and doing their anime style face-ups. I was scared when it came to gluing their hair and styling it, but it worked out really well, so I'm still leaning towards using more yarn wefts in the future, especially for complicated hairstyles. I think it's so cool having so many Pokémon dolls from Pokémon Sun and Moon. Which one do you like better, Lillie or Gladion? As part of our collaboration, my friend Doll Motion created an Alolan Ninetales and Alolan Vulpix. Lillie got to meet her Alolan Vulpix, and they got along really well. I hope you enjoyed this double dose of doll magic. Don't forget that there's still a bunch more video game themed doll customizations for you to watch. Make sure you check out all of our videos to see a wide range of characters and styles. Just go to the links in the description. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you had fun. More doll magic, including the next Pokemon in the Zodiac series, is on the way soon. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel and that you've clicked the little notification bell to make sure you won't miss it. I'll see you all again soon, friends. Bye!